Welcome to Bunny Hugs and Mental Health, the podcast that deals with all things mental health. We talk to professionals, survivors, and loved ones about their sometimes informative, sometimes uplifting, and sometimes tragic stories. I'm your host of the show, Todd Rennebaum, advocate, recovering addict, experienced sufferer of depression and anxiety, and author of the children's book, Sometimes Daddy Cries. Hello and welcome to another episode of Bunny Hugs and Mental Health here on the Saskatchewan Podcast Network. I am Todd Rennebaum. So, it's been an interesting week. Excuse me. I have COVID. I'm almost over it, but it's been a weird week. Both my kids and my wife and I all got COVID. It's just the thing to get right now. Anyway, another cool thing that happened this week is on the website FeedSpot, the podcast Bunny Hugs and Mental Health went up from 7th best mental health podcast in Canada up to 6th. So that's pretty cool. So thank you for all the guests and everyone for listening, and it's really cool that happened. Before I get too far ahead, I just want to say thank you to Pym Mood Chews. That's Pym Mood Chews for sponsoring this episode. You can go to youcanpym.com and order yourself some mood chews, and it helps with anxiety and when you're feeling stressed out, you have a little mood chew and bring that anxiety right down back to normal levels. So thank you, You Can Pym. This week's podcast, I am speaking to Haley Rose. She goes by mind.over.mood on Instagram, and that's how I met her, was on Instagram. She has a little account there, and it's all about mental health and being bipolar and having psychosis and all this stuff, but she has a bit of a twist on things, and she makes little videos and little comedy sketches, and I thought it was really amusing and really a good idea to put some humor in some of this stuff. So I reached out to her, and she's a really fun guest. She's really funny, really nice, really sweet, and we had a really great conversation. It was kind of a long episode. We kind of got babbling. She also has ADHD, so we're both very good at talking, and once in a while we go off topic a bit, but it's a longer episode. I considered doing 2 episodes, splitting it up, but I thought, let's just do one longer episode and just enjoy it once and move on to the next episode. So, without further ado, I give you Haley Rose. So, you are an Instagrammer.
Yeah.
I mean, lots of people are, but what would you say you're a mental health advocate? Like, what would you say your page is? Mental health advocacy / comedy?
I would say primarily it's a mental health activism kind of page or advocacy page, because obviously that's the main point, and sometimes I'm not funny. Right. I'm just talking, but like I prefer things to be fun and enjoyable, but sometimes I can be a serious, drama queen. But it's advocacy or activism kind of done in an entertaining way, because right. I want this to be something that people enjoy, whether, they were into the topic or not in the beginning. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
It's kind of funny talking to you as you, because you almost do play a character, and I was kind of expecting the character in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I definitely kind of put a little more of something, I'm a little more like focused and in a zone, I guess, but I do still have facial expressions that are kind of large, you know what I mean? So like and a lot of the time I hope people don't think I'm like performing when I'm just talking like every day or whatever, but
Yeah. How many followers do you have? Like, are you getting a lot of great feedback because of your...
Yeah, I'm getting so a lot of people saying that it's helping them, which makes me feel really good. A lot of people are saying my favorite bit of feedback that I'm getting is people saying, "Oh, I didn't know this was a thing," or "Oh, I didn't know about that," or somebody else saying, "Oh my God, I thought I was the only person."
Right.
You know what I mean? Like those two kinds of responses are my absolute favorite, because that's the whole point of what I'm doing.
Yeah. 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 There's some things you've posted where it's like, what am I trying to say here? Where it's like, oh yeah, yeah, like I could totally relate, I guess. And I
Yeah,
don't know. I don't know if I
good.
felt exactly like I'm the only one that feels that way or does that stupid little thing, um, but it is very relatable, and you find humor in the things that aren't obviously humorous too, which I
Yes.
really like, and
Thank
that's kind
you.
of why I started I started following, and sharing, and liking, and so I thought that's why you would be an interesting guest too,
Thank
because
you.
um, a lot of people I talk to, almost everyone I talk to, it's very serious conversations, which is
Yes.
there's definitely a place for that, and but there is a lot of humor. This is the weird thing about my podcast is I have a dark sense of humor,
Me too.
and and yeah,
Obviously.
it doesn't show in my podcast though, because I'm always talking very serious with you know
Right.
for good reason, because a lot of people are going through a lot of stuff that
Right.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't
Yeah.
drink Coke while I'm excuse
You're
me.
all good.
So yeah, it's nice to talk to someone and have a little dark humor
Thank you.
about
You know,
our
there was
ailments.
exactly. There was a line that Chris said in Family Guy in like an old episode, but he said, "If I couldn't laugh at myself, I'd be dead by now." And it's true. If I couldn't laugh at myself, I'd be dead by now.
Yeah,
And or laugh about things because it's like like you get to a point where you're just like, what the hell else are we going to do? Like
yeah.
everybody's cried so freaking much. Everybody has been sitting here suffering, been scared, been lonely, been confused, been angry, been whatever, been in a state that they don't understand. But it's like,
Hmm.
but isn't it funny?
Hmm.
Like, isn't this is and kind of taking the piss out of it. I don't know how much language I'm allowed to use. I'm going to try not to,
You
but
cannot say piss.
I cuss like a sailor, so I'm going to do my absolute best.
I'm
So
kidding. You can say whatever you want.
okay, good, because
I'm
you saw my
kidding.
face. I'm all like sitting there like challenge accepted. Okay.
Just relax. Relax. You can talk however you want.
I cut like
Grab.
even my husband's sitting there and he's all like, come on. Like, sorry.
Is he watching
But
right now?
no,
Oh.
he's no. I'm saying it when I'm talking in every day,
Oh,
like
oh,
you know
I
what I
see. I
mean,
see. I
like,
see.
and he's just
Okay.
like, yeah, and he's just like, come on, like less of the come on, and he's not like a big prude or anything, but no, and it's anyway, it's like when you got to take the piss out of stuff because otherwise it's got all that power over you. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? But if you
absolutely.
can learn how to laugh at stuff, not only do everybody can join in laughter, everyone can join in and cry, everybody can join in and laugh. And there's not enough laughing going on, I think, in the world right now today.
I agree. Sorry,
Let
I played with my
alone,
light right now, but
oh,
I
you're
I
all good.
I fully agree. Like, especially
Let
like,
alone with this heavy subject.
yeah, and yeah. I don't know what it's like to be American, but with all the politics stuff in the last few years there too, and everything, it's like
Always.
it's very polarizing everything right now, right?
Everything.
And
Yes.
vaccine versus non-vaccine and all this stuff is just it's
And
exhausting.
yeah, exactly. And just all of this kind of stuff. And
Creepy. I'm sorry.
even even just in the world in general, it's like every day you wake up and wish it was yesterday because of all the bullshit that's happening today,
Yeah.
and you just think to yourself, you're like, what fuckery is this? You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, and
Let's take one
it's like,
off
I
our
never
plate.
thought every day I wake up and I think, oh, it couldn't get worse than this. And then every day I'm wrong. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and
Like,
I think everybody's really sick of it, to be honest with you. I don't think even the outrage mob is like, mate, give it a rest. You know what I mean? Like, even the outrage mom is like, oh my God, I'm in no mood today. Like,
yeah. Even the Karens are getting tired.
even the Karens are all like, I have stuff to do. Like,
Maybe that's what will unite us all is so much shit that we just
exactly. Like,
unite.
when are we going to get tired and just say, you know what? I can't anymore. Like there was this Australian guy who used this sound, you get like the sounds off of reels and stuff like that. And you can make your own thing with them.
I don't know how to do it, but yeah.
Well, yeah, you can get a sound that everybody's using. But like he got this sound, And I think he was the originator of it. But in Australia, it's like they're all basically imprisoned in their houses right now. But like they come out, he's like, "Hello, everyone. I want you all to know I am not coping. I am not coping right now." And it's just like, I don't blame you. Nobody is, but especially you, like, Jesus.
Good accent.
Thank you.
This is my Australian accent. Norway. Norway. That's all I can say is Norway.
Norway.
My wife watches a lot of Australian TV for some reason.
Oh, really?
A lot of reality shows. Well, it's like Married at First Sight, Australia, and
God.
She was watching some Housewives ones.
Housewives.
Yeah.
So you watch all the. There's a show. Or there's a network that hosts all that kind of stuff in America, and it's probably only in America, but it's called TLC.
No, we have it.
And I don't know what it stood for, but like that's the one that shows
the Learning
all,
Channel.
Like the Learning Channel. Oh shit, the Learning Channel. But it shows all like the 90 Day Fiance and like the My 600 Pound Life and all this stuff. So I always call it the Trash Lovers Channel. And I watch it anytime.
Well, you know what? I love my wife to death, and I do love trashy TV. But the other morning, sorry, we're not really talking about mental health stuff much right now. What kind of? My story does kind of. So in the morning, I have my rituals, and I have to jack myself up in my brain before going to work, and I work for my best friend, so it's lovely people, but still, no negative anything. Well, she had the day off, and it's like 7:30 in the morning, and she's watching, oh God, a bunch of assholes that work in a restaurant for a rich lady in California. I can't think of the show. She was one of the housewives of Beverly Hills at one time.
Oh, okay. I hadn't watched any of those.
Vanderpump Rules.
Oh, okay.
She watches that, and it's just like the worst people on earth. And it's 7:30 in the morning, and I said, it's way too early for this.
But you know what sucks is it's like, that's how people are in LA. A lot of them, a huge amount of them, either that or they're like scary in different ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's like, that's not just 7:30, that's 7:30, 8:30, 9:30, 12:30, 1:33 in the morning. That's that you're surrounded in that swill of negativity all day. And I swear, like, it was the middle of the pandemic last year when I moved out here. And I ended up having to go to the hospital when I got out here because it was the peak of my very first real manic episode. But that's a different story. But the point is, even though all that was happening, I still felt more mentally at peace here than I did over there.
Right. Well,
I'd never been manic over there at all.
I've been to Santa Barbara a few times, and I don't find the people, I don't find the people too bad there. I mean, they're pretty chilled out. And
that's more Central California and Northern California, whole different story.
Oh, I see.
Whole different story. When you're talking about SoCal, that's the LA, that's the Orange County, that's the San Diego, and that's just the like, please buy area,
Before we go too much further, let's get to know you a little bit.
Okay.
So, do you mind me asking your age?
Yes, I am 32.
Okay. Married?
Yes.
Yes. Kids?
No.
And diagnosis?
Do you want the whole burrito or just?
Yeah. I want to hear your story and kind of why you got into doing what you're doing and stuff. An entire burrito.
Yes. So just the burrito list, I suppose. I have ADHD. I deal with. Oh, are you there?
Yeah. You're just freezing for a sec, but you're still there.
Sorry, you were freezing a bit too. Just want to make sure. I have ADHD. I deal with body dysmorphic disorder. It's a form of OCD.
Sorry, I was kidding. I was faking it.
No, I'm sorry. I was thinking so hard. I was lost. I was all like, hey, "That's normal. What he's doing is normal. It's fine."
Sorry, I interrupted you right in your burrito list.
No, it's okay. So it's so I have that, and then I have. I suppose I have complex PTSD, which I haven't even touched that yet. That's still like in the queue. You know what I'm saying? Like I've not even gone near that because there's just all these things that I've been tackling my time. Right. And then I have, let me see, schizoaffective bipolar disorder. which is bipolar 1 with just a sprinkling of schizophrenia.
Right.
But not like enough where someone would say like, oh yes, she absolutely acts like she has schizophrenia or whatever. Like it's just a sprinkling, like, like sprinkles on a donut.
What's that mean?
I'm mostly bipolar, I would say.
Okay. I just talked to someone else who was schizoaffective and bipolar 1, and it's when she's in her upswing that she gets the symptoms of the schizophrenic thing.
Yes. Well, the thing with schizoaffective is you can get the psychosis, which is the defining factor. You can get it whether you're having a mood episode or not. And this summer, because I figured I just had psychosis while I had, mood episodes and bipolar 1. But then I wasn't in a specific mood episode, and I had this kind of psychotic, kind of like big psychotic episode, which was freaking me out to the point where I went to, I got checked into a psych unit for a few days, and I had to get myself sorted out, So then that was when they looked at it and said, oh, it's probably more like schizoaffective bipolar disorder. But for the bipolar, it's definitely bipolar 1 at this point. It was bipolar 2 because I'd only ever had hypomania, but I'd had very, very deep depressions, like long and very deep and very, what one would classify as severe for many, many months at a time. But then all of a sudden, like I said, like maybe a year and a half ago, I didn't even realize it. I thought that I was just becoming a little bit superhuman because I was moving across the country and doing really well. But it turned out I was manic. So I wasn't a superhuman after all. It was mania. So I didn't realize it. I just figured I was becoming like a kind of a, demigod that didn't need sleep anymore or whatever. And it's like, no, that's mania. That's exactly what that is.
Well, at least you put it to good work for you.
Sort of, yes. I drove I was the sole driver for 4 days, almost 2,200 miles. And when it was time to sleep, I just laid in the back seat, and I was just like, I was looking around, and I'm all like, I'm going to text some people. I'm going to talk to them. I can't sleep, like blah, blah. I was like guzzling down this like sleep stuff. Like it's NyQuil. I don't know if you guys have that.
Yeah. We're not that different. It's just an imaginary line.
My husband's from England. They don't have NyQuil over there, so I didn't know. But
there's an ocean between them.
Well, yeah, I know.
I don't
know. but I'm sitting there like I'm drinking, I'm just like drinking it like it's juice or something, and like I'm not going to sleep, and so I'm sitting there texting, and my husband wakes up and he's all like, "Have you slept?" I'm like, "Yeah, like 20 minutes. Let's go." Like
maybe you have a codeine addiction.
No, that stuff did not, it did nothing. It did absolutely nothing. And I didn't even put 2 and 2 together until like I was screaming and being dragged into the hospital because I got there and one of my plants had died. And for some reason, like that was just it. I was just like this big thing. And they're like, okay, she needs medical help. Let's go take her to the thing. I was like rolling under the bed and like kicking at people and stuff.
We can laugh about it now, though.
Yeah, of course you can. And I tell people it's like my first manic episode culminated in me behaving like a feral cat because it did. So,
well, I noticed you posted the other day what it's like to have psychosis. Yes. It was like weird movements, and it was like a shadow person kind of in the corner of your eye kind of thing. And I found that because I've never had psychosis. I've had lots of other types of problems, but never had psychosis. So that I found that extremely interesting and helpful for me because, I'm talking to people with psychosis all the time and interviewing people. So now I kind of have a hint of what it's like. So I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. And I would want to just say like, I have a very, in terms of the hallucinations and things like that, mine are very, very mild and a bit confusing at best. You know what I mean? And I feel so lucky I'm not like seeing my demons and like hearing people talking to me and stuff. And like, I'm so like, my heart goes out to people who actually deal with that level of that. for me, the majority of it stays in, like episodes where I'll get delusional or I'll get paranoid or I'll think, things that are very, very true to me in that moment, but are not true in real life. You know what I mean? And so it's like, I realized that I'd been having psychosis so long when there was the truth. And then there was the truth, but we're not going to bring it up with anybody because they wouldn't understand. So let's just not talk about it. That truth, I realized, not true. I love when I got a mention the other day on my story, and people were like, hello to my other legally insane friend, mind over mood. And I'm all like, yeah. Like, yeah.
I kind of feel you.
And but you got like you said, you got to make fun of it. Like what, I like that psychotic breakdown that I had. I ended up this summer, I ended up having my first episode of kind of word salad, which is basically where all you can say is just this absolute shite that sounds like an rejected verse of I Am the Walrus. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, there's no sense to these things that you're saying, and they don't even necessarily make sense to you. But I wrote it down. Like I put, because I like to document stuff so that like later when I'm thinking, oh, that didn't happen, and like I start gaslighting myself, I look back and I'm like, oh wait, no, yes it did, like, because I do that because I like to be like, oh, it's not that bad, but like, yeah, it kind of is that bad, And so I made like a poetry jam out of it. You know what I mean? Like the word salad, and I'm sitting there like kind of jamming to it and everything, like later to kind of introduce people to that topic. And it's just like, but I look back at it and I'm just like, what was I saying? Like, what was that? What the, like Thomas Bird peeping poop, Biden CDC Fenray. Like, what the fuck? Like, what? Like, what is that? Like,
you don't know what Fenray is?
I have no idea.
I guess I don't either.
I don't know, but it was just this stuff that was just coming out, and like I couldn't do it. Or like I'll go catatonic, for example, and all of a sudden it's like, like that Windows sound was like, da, 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 and I'm just all like, and like, that's just it. And like, I'm done. Like I'm laying there, like on the chair or whatever. And I'm just like, like I can't move. I can't do anything, So it's like, those are weird symptoms of psychosis. You know what I mean? Like that I think I would, if I had to get rid of something I experienced, it would probably be stuff like that, because it's not very fun. I'm very lucky though that that's only ever happened. The catatonia has only ever happened when I was somewhere safe, like family's house or my house or something. Like, like I don't know what I'd do if like that happened on like the subway or something. People probably just all take their phones out and like film me or whatever, and then like upload it and get lots of views. I don't think anybody would help me though.
No,
no,
not even in Tennessee.
Well, maybe in Tennessee, but if I was on like a subway in LA, everyone would just be sitting there like poking me, like drawing like dicks on my face and stuff, like,
She must be in a band.
Yeah. Oh, she's had a night, like.
Is she one of the Kardashians?
Oh my God, no! That's the real accent in California, though. Like if I get like whenever, and it comes out like for me, it would come out for me if I was ever like getting stoned, like that's when it gets its worst. Like I'll get stoned and I'll be like, oh my God, I want popcorn. Like,
I've
did
heard
somebody see the what? Like you just sit there. That's a clue of how high I am, is basically how strong my California accent is. Everyone who knows me knows.
Well, I've met that girl in Santa Barbara, actually. We were renting a house. Like, I have friends in Santa Barbara. That's why we go there quite often. And they rented us a house. And there was some other couple with us, too, that we had never met. But anyway, and some girls started smoking pot in the kitchen. And the person we were sharing the house with, they're like, do you mind not smoking pot in here? He's like, it's okay. I know the owner, and he smokes pot in here all the time.
All the time.
We're like, yeah, but he's not here. We're living here right now. Do you mind not smoking pot in our kitchen?
But we don't want you smoking pot. If that's okay. Like,
no, it's seriously. He says it's okay, and it's like, no, but
we're saying.
Yeah. So then I just laughed. I was like, okay, I'm
And then
going
that's the
outside.
part where she's like staring back around and being like, "What? I don't understand." Like he said it's fine. Like I don't. Do you want some? I mean, I don't.
And I did. I did have some.
It was probably great. Santa Barbara's got great stuff.
I actually, speaking of getting high, today is I'm 5 years sober from alcohol.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. It's Saturday. I'm 5 years sober of like in general from everything, but today was 5 years from alcohol. So.
Today is 5 years. Oh my God. I hope it wasn't assholey of me to be like, to bring anything. Okay, good. I just want to make sure. That's awesome though. Congratulations. That's so hard.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Well, yeah, I went to treatment and stuff when I did get sober and yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's bittersweet because it's like, yay, I'm 5 years sober. But then I think of the day I quit, and it was like a very dramatic, traumatic experience for my family.
The actual anniversary of,
Yeah. So it's like, so it's cool that it's a 5-year anniversary that I'm sober, but it's also a 5-year anniversary of this awful night that I had. So,
yeah.
But it all turned out fine.
Yeah, exactly. And now you're here and look at you. And you're probably living a lot better than you were at that point.
I'm homeless right now. I'm doing this from a ditch. Kidding.
I had to keep a poker face. I'm like, oh my God, he's serious. I'm going to feel like such a dick for making this I don't believe you face. But I'm going to make that bet and take that risk. I'm going to be like, no.
No. So when did you start your page? Like you moved to Tennessee just this summer and had
last summer.
Last summer. Oh, okay. Psychosis this summer?
The part where I really noticed it was an issue was this summer, because that's the thing they always tell you with psychosis is it's like when you are finally, it's accepting that what you're experiencing is psychosis. It's not finding out because it all seems very real and normal to you, you know? And so to find out that so many things that you like your senses are not exactly real all the time, like that's really like, you know what I mean? Like, and so you're sitting there, you're like, is this going on or is this not going on? You know, or you catch yourself thinking of stuff and you're like, oh, that looks a lot like this actually, huh?
Right.
You know, so when I noticed that it was undeniably that this summer, but like I would always chalk it up to like stress or something like that. But like last year I was experiencing it in the summer as well. You know, everybody was still doing the lockdown thing, even here. Mm-hmm. I was just sitting there on the couch and I was just staring at the box of tissues on the table. And I said, honey, and my husband goes, what? And I said, the tissue box is breathing. Because it looked like it was like going like expanding and contracting or whatever. And he's all like, okay, I'm going to bed, you know?
So he just went to bed.
I don't like, you know, like, what do you do when somebody says that? Like, honestly, like, I'm not mad. Like,
I guess I don't know.
What do you do?
I think my wife has the hardest part out of my mental illness. She has the hardest part
dealing with it and stuff. Aw.
Not so much lately, but like when I was using and drinking and suicidal and all that stuff was like, what the, like, I don't know if I would have been like, I don't know what I would have done.
Oh, I know. I probably would have bounced on me, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to say that, but yeah, I would have too, probably.
No, I'm very lucky. People are like, you know, what's the most important thing about, you know, a relationship that you absolutely need? And it's like, well, of course I need honesty. You know, I need, you know, authenticity and love and everything. But the first thing that comes to mind is patience. Yeah. I need somebody who can be really, really patient with me.
Yeah.
Because it's true, you know.
Same. Yeah. Well, I'm such a flake and all over the place. It's like I need one grounded thing in my life, and that's my wife. You know. Like,
absolutely.
I have a job every other year, and like I'm all over the place, and I go all in when I get a hobby. It's not like, you know, well, maybe I'll try it out. It's like I'm going all in or nothing. And
do you have ADHD as well? I can't remember.
I've never. I want to get tested. I'm pretty sure I do. I don't know. It's weird. I don't know. I'm kind of scared to get tested too.
find out that there's a reason that certain things are the way they are.
Yeah, like I read symptoms and I read stories and stuff, and it's like, oh my God, that sounds just like me in so many ways. And then not in other ways, like, like I'm not I can, like, it's more like I get hyper focused than distracted all the time.
Oh no, hyperfocus is a huge part of ADHD.
Oh, okay. See,
Hyperfocus to the point.
Yeah. See,
no,
everyone in my family's been diagnosed with it.
See, that's the thing though. It's like with ADHD, people think it's a lack of attention, and it's like, no, it's only having the ability to pay attention to things that are absolutely not helpful to you in that given moment. That's what ADHD is like, and
laughing
or laughing or helpful at all, by the way. But like, no, like that's the thing. It's like, I did this video. It was like, I have 3 looks and that's it. One is I can do anything and everything. I'm all over the place. Like, I don't know what's going on. The next one is just sitting there in that freeze. Like, I'm supposed to be doing stuff. Why am I like this? Why am I like this? And the next one, I'm sitting there playing my Xbox and it's just like a hyper focus thing. And somebody's talking. I'm like, fuck, what? You know what I mean? Like, because that's what it is. Someone's all like, hey, and I'm like, what?
Well, that sounds nothing like me. Oh my God. You just described my weekend.
That's been my life, man. Like, it's like you turn like, Lord, but it's actually that's been one of the interesting things. So to answer your earlier question, I started this page in May.
Oh yeah. Yeah. When'd you start this? 2 ADHD people. This
is how 2 ADHD people talk. That's all I'm saying. I'm just putting that out there. But, but I started it in March when I was having a manic episode, and I made enough content to last for 6 months. I didn't end up using like half of it because like my direction got more defined. But the point was I made it so it was there in case I got depressed later and I'd still have stuff to post. And I would literally sit on the couch for like 16 hours at a time, just sitting there for like 2 weeks. And I just made all this stuff. And by the way, I also made an equal amount of stuff for a different project that I was doing all in about 2 weeks. I made a year's worth of stuff. This is what that does. And I was like dancing around at like 3 a.m. making these friggin' reels and stuff. And I'm just like, I don't need to go to bed. I'm a god. But like, you literally believe it. Like, that's the freaky part. Like, it's not like, oh, look at me, I'm a god, like I'm a narcissist. Like, no. Literally, I'm a god. Yeah. Like, that's when that happens. And you're like,
I've been meditating lately, and it's like, why am I meditating to the universe? I am the universe.
I am the universe. Yeah, no, seriously. Like, there was a point where I thought I had basically like a USB style connection to like the God of the universe. And I was like typing these like pages and pages of letters as if they were being dictated to me, like handing them to like, I was like, babe, God told me to tell you this. Like, what? I'm all like, print it. We got to print like these pages of just shite that said nothing like of value. Like, but I was like, it came to me. He's like, okay, sweetie, thank you. I'll read this later. I don't think he read it, and I don't blame him. But
our spouses should have coffee.
Yes. They'd probably be like, so they should probably have like drinks or something. Like, I don't know. Like, my husband doesn't even drink, but if he did.
Actually, my wife recently quit as well for no reason other than, like, it's not like she was over drinking, but she was just thought health-wise. So.
Solidarity and health-wise. Okay. Yeah, it does make a good.
So I was right. They should meet for coffee.
Yes, coffee. I was just saying, like, something a little stronger might be good, So, but,
strong coffee.
Yeah. But it's been interesting doing this, doing all of this content and stuff, because some of it I make on the fly, and then some of it I make, I pre-make because I want to have something specific, Right. But like the ADHD, I did a video about my point of view with ADHD. Like earlier on in my page, it's probably in like June or something. I basically did like my point of view trying to get out to the fucking gym in the morning. And it took me an hour and a half, and that was real time. Right. So I was just filming myself. Like, what am I doing? Like, and these were all of my thoughts, because that's what happens. And everyone who watched it who had ADHD, and I asked several people, like I asked probably a handful of people, I was like, did you watch it? Like blah, blah, blah. Or like I watched other people with ADHD watch it, and they all said the same thing. I related to all of it except this one part where it went like all white and like you just cut to you being somewhere else. I didn't relate to that. And I'm all like, oh, because that's a psychotic symptom. That just happens to me. Like, oh, like, and that's a dissociation, which is something completely different.
Right.
But what the point was, it taught me it helped me like separate things that I always just attributed to this thing. And so didn't really think about it. But it's like, I realized more and more of these things that like maybe were normal or weren't really a part of that, or were kind of a part of that, or whatever. And then just on accident. And then also meeting people. I have met some of, I believe, the most interesting people in the world.
Yeah.
I am friends with people that not a lot of people are friends with. And I find that absolutely crazy. Like, no, no pun intended. No, I mean, it's like, I probably know more schizophrenic people.
Oh, I see.
Than like anybody. I know people who are, like openly like diagnosed with narcissism, openly diagnosed with sociopathy or psychopathy or whatever. And like, I've been getting to know so many other people with bipolar disorder, autistic people, like, just all kinds of people who are whole systems of people in their head. You know what I mean? Like with the dissociative identity disorders and stuff, who go by the pronouns we, because they literally kind of are, you know what I mean? Like, and just all kinds of people from all walks of life who are all very different and also very much the same. And It's been very, and they don't like, and you see, like you see an illness at first when someone first says it, but then you keep talking to people and it's like, that was me. I'm going to go. No, but no, you see all these people, you see these people behind the pathologies and the mental illnesses and stuff like that. And you're just like, oh, this is really cool. You know what I mean? Like this, like, and I've learned so much about so many different people. Like it's been incredible.
And how common it is.
Yes. Yes.
Like, why is there stigmas? Like there isn't a person that I know that doesn't know someone, or at least is suffering from, or has suffered from some kind of mental health issue.
Yes.
Whether it's PTSD, postpartum, schizophrenia, bipolar. Who else did I talk to?
There's anxiety, like
anxiety disorder. What's the other one? The borderline personality. Like,
yes,
I could go just door to door in my small little town and talk to people about mental health issues, and yet there's still stigmas. It's bizarre. Oh, and addiction.
Yes, yeah, that's got to be a big one because nobody wants to talk about it because it's like it's this thing that's considered, not a good look or whatever, I guess. But it's kind of like sex or like buttholes. Like everyone is exposed to it. Everyone has it. But like everyone wants to pretend like they don't. You know what I mean? Like,
excuse me?
I've never.
I have never.
There isn't a toilet in my bathroom. There's just an armchair in the Wall Street Journal. Like everybody, like, and nobody, it's one of those things where you're scared to say anything because you're just assuming that it's just you. And especially some of the symptoms that people experience that are embarrassing or hard to talk about or scary, or like the kinds of illnesses that people have that are scary or, like hard to deal with, or that people just have a really misunderstanding of in society. It's like people are scared. So many people don't even show their face.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's so not like, there's no reason. There's like, I there's a reason, but there shouldn't be.
Yeah.
So
I've spent time in the psych ward as well. And I met a kid that was schizophrenic and had Tourette's, and like just a sweet kid. He was just a sweet kid. And like,
that's such a hard one to grow up with.
But yeah, but I'm sure he doesn't, like talk about perpetuating a disease, or, by putting shame and having that stigma around it so that you can't even be completely honest and open and be yourself around everyone. Like that's something that since I've quit drinking and stuff is just like I'm unapologetically myself.
Good.
And it's like I've never felt healthier because
Absolutely.
why walk around trying to, not being yourself. So I felt
Exactly.
horrible for this young kid because I'm sure he's constantly trying to hide his Tourette's, but then he's also constantly trying to hide his schizophrenia. And it's, as soon as you say schizophrenia, people think of like, mass shooters and things. And it's
things that don't even, yeah.
If you're taking your meds, like it's no.
And even if you're not, like, you're much more likely to be somebody who's victimized rather than like, because it's like most people don't do that. Most people with schizophrenia are sitting there like, seeing stuff and like being terrified. It can be terrifying to have schizophrenia, or at least very confusing and depressing, so it's usually
paranoia and stuff.
Right. And so you're usually kind of just like hiding, for a lot of reasons. And that's the thing, like, people who have chronic mental health issues, everybody knows. And if they don't, they do it subconsciously. You have to mask, and you have to mask what you're dealing with. And it's all these little things, right? So like when I go out, like I will speak more slowly. I will purposely kind of keep my face less like, hi, how are you? Because I look like a freaking ridiculous person. But like, I'm sitting there and I have to kind of, mask a little bit and kind of be like grown up or whatever. And like, just kind of like, and I can't let my emotional state or whatever get the better of me. I have to pull myself out of these kind of zone out dissociations I get into as fast as possible. I have to shut my mouth when I catch myself talking out loud from like maladaptive daydreaming. And I look like I'm talking to somebody, but I'm not, like I almost got like a Bluetooth piece that I could just wear in my ear.
That's a great
so that
idea.
If I end up doing that on accident, like it just looks like, oh yeah, Carl, I'm going to go to the shop later and blah, blah. Because I look like a crazy person, like
quote unquote crazy person.
Yeah.
I've actually accidentally pocket dialed someone before, and it was in my chest pocket, and I was in the middle of a conversation with myself, and then they like yelled really loud so that I could hear and pick up the phone. They're like, who the fuck are you talking to?
Oh my God. Oh, I would die.
I'm like,
oh no, I would die. Yeah. And I like, that's, that's always just really embarrassing because I'm a grown ass woman. I shouldn't be still like falling into these things, but I do. It's a compulsion. I don't even realize I'm doing it until I'm already doing it. You know what I mean? And so it's just, it's just
so
not fun.
Talking about this stuff and stigma, and we're kind of talking about some serious issues and all this. So how do you, what's the fine line of humor and like not being offensive? I noticed you and another Instagram person, I think she's bipolar lady. I can't remember what her.
Are you talking about the bipolar wife?
I don't know. It doesn't matter. But the conversation was about memes are glamorizing mental illnesses. Do memes do that? And so because you do make memes and post memes about mental illness, but there is a fine line, right? And also
yes.
We just had Halloween and like the insane person costume and all this stuff. Like, so what is that fine line for you? Like, I know it's a kind of a
no, it's totally
question.
Good. No, not at all. I think it's an important question. And it's, I mean, I think that there's a lot of nuance that goes into talking about anything, like that we as humans 99% of the time are going to kind of be able to feel, I think who's making the joke, why they're making the joke, what joke they're making. Those are the three questions. You know what I mean? Who's making the joke? Is it somebody who's experiencing it, or is it somebody who doesn't know what it is? What joke is it? Is it a joke that's kind of mocking them, or is it a joke that kind of says, brothers, do you not feel this as well? Right. Or, hey, this is something dumb. Let's kick its ass. You know what I mean? And then, why is the joke being done? Is it being done to hurt people? Or is it being done to educate people? Or is it being done just to kind of dry some tears and make somebody smile about crappy things they're going through? You know what I mean?
So far, that's a beautiful answer.
Well done.
Thank you. I think that's kind of the thing. And obviously, I use those two. If you'll notice, I don't make reels or a huge amount of memes or anything about issues that I don't experience.
Mm-hmm.
I will include everyone when I am advocating, and I will give general information about stuff that's readily available, like, the differences between personality disorders and mood disorders and neurodivergencies and mental illnesses. Those are just facts that you could just find out, right? But I'm not going to speak to someone's experience that I don't have. I'm not going to make a video about being autistic because I'm not autistic. I'm not going to make a video about having ASPD because I don't have ASPD. You know what I mean?
What's that?
Like antisocial personality disorder, otherwise known as sociopathy. But I'm not going to make. But it is a real disorder that people deal with, and it is also not necessarily what everybody says it is. But
right.
Sometimes it is, but not always, but and it's like, I'm not going to speak to things that don't apply to me. When I do make a joke, I make it in a brothers, do you feel seen kind of way, or, hey, you're not alone kind of way, or am I right? Like, like that kind of thing. And if I can, I'll make something where I can then go on and talk about it, like in the caption, or like I'll make something informative if I can, because, I don't like letting a good meme go to waste. And if I have your attention, I might as well say something important, it's like, and I mean, it's the nuance thing. It basically boils down to, you probably, maybe you didn't. There's a show called King of the Hill. Have you ever seen it? Oh, darn it.
I don't live on the moon, lady.
No, I didn't know. I don't know. Like,
I have every TV show you have.
Okay. All right, good. So have you seen King of the Hill?
Yes.
Okay. So there's this episode where Bobby listens to a comedian who's basically a ripoff of Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
And he makes the jokes about the Black experience, but then Bobby decides to make jokes about the Black experience. And it's like, Bobby, you can't do that as like a tow-headed white boy. Like, no, it's not going to read the same, like, because it's not, and so like, that's kind of the line, I think. And people can feel when you're mocking them versus when you're trying to connect. So,
And and it's weird too because of this whole cancel culture right now and stuff. And it's not that I'm anyone important that can be canceled, but in the future, if something happens, I mean, you never know. Of the world,
you never know.
Yeah, I guess, but still, it's a weird time. But at the same time, I feel like you're right that like for the most part, people are just relating and appreciating it than they are getting defensive about it. And even the ones where it is kind of pretentious in a way, or kind of they're doing it all about the wrong reasons, it's still, I don't want to call them out, but I'm glad other people do, you know what I mean? Because I just don't have the energy to argue. It's like, oh good, they're doing it, okay, have at them.
Exactly. Well, it's like, and then for me, it's like there's also a very fine line. Like I'm going to say things as courteously as I can. I'm going to include things that are worth including. I'm going to be, reasonably sensitive in my explanations or my jokes or whatever. I'm going to do my best not to cross a line. Mm-hmm. That being said, if you still have an issue with me and what I'm saying, congratulations, bye. You know what I mean? Like I never I'm all up for someone clapping back. I'm all up for someone, like not wanting to listen to someone anymore. I'm all for any of that, but it's like you get to a point where you just know there's going to be somebody who's just too precious for this joke, and they're going to show up and they're going to make themselves known and they're going to tell you to take it down or whatever. And it's like, or they're going to sit there and get mad at you for the part you say that's very important truth. And I'm very, like I said, I've gotten some people like trying to just early on, just some people who were all like, you wouldn't know, you this, you that, like blah, blah, you know nothing about mental illness. I'm like, have you looked at my page? Like, but
I'm wicked crazy, lady.
And I had this lady who was like, just so you know, using this specific word is a little bit triggering to some people in this specific niche community. So maybe we want to be a little more sensitive next time. I'm like, maybe we want to shove this message up your ass because I don't care. Like you're one of those people where the rules are changing every 10 minutes and I can't keep up and I'm not going to keep up. I know what polite is. I know what reasonable is. And I'm not, you know what I mean? Like I'm not keeping up with that,
or what appropriate is, or
exactly. Like, I'm not stupid usually.
Usually. I might be psychotic. I'm not stupid.
Psychotic. I'm not stupid. No, that was an idea for a t-shirt I wanted to print. Like it was I may be crazy, but at least I'm not stupid. And just sit there with like a little, pointing at you face.
You were talking earlier about how when you are in I don't think I've ever been in psychosis. It's hard to say because I was drunk at the time also, but it was maybe just disassociation. I don't know. But anyway, you were saying
that can happen when you're under like an influence of drug or whatever. You can have drug-induced psychosis. Alcohol-induced probably as well. I don't even know. But I know drug-induced definitely.
Well, it was right before a suicide attempt, and it was like, I wasn't like hammered. I had a few drinks basically, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is I don't know what it's like to be psychosis. I don't think. But anyway. But you were
being
saying
on just a little bit of LSD without any good euphoric feelings.
With the paranoia.
Yes.
So smoke a lot of weed with a little bit of LSD.
Just a little bit of LSD running through, kind of weaving through your day like, a ribbon and ice cream.
Sorry. What was the point I was making?
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Oh, so when you've had psychosis, you could tell that, okay, this is like, or at least you've learned or you've been able to recognize this is psychosis, but it doesn't make it feel any less real. And I can relate to that because it's not with psychosis, but with like depression and anxiety. I lowered my meds recently or a few months ago, and I was just like a bundle of nerves and I was a wreck. And I realized, I think I'm having withdrawal. And so it's like you'd think like, this is withdrawal. That's what's happening, and you'd feel better. But no, it still feels completely real and scary. And even though I knew what was happening and why it was happening, it did not make it any less real. So
no, absolutely. Well, and it's kind of like, in a way, it's kind of like taking extra wheels off of the bike. You know what I mean? Like the bike's not going to be as steady as it, on its own as it was with the wheels on. You took the wheels off and now you have to do more work to make sure that you learn how to deal with this new, less steady version of this bike. Right. You know what I mean? Like, cause it's not going to be, stabilized by those extra wheels. And some people, they're not going to be able to drive without those training or ride without those training wheels. But if you can, it's good to have them taken off like you're doing with lowering your medication. But like you said, you're not going to be more stable. You have to kind of like prop yourself up now. And like, that's just, it's harder. It can be worth it, definitely, but it's just harder. You know what I mean?
I might go back up. I'm not sure. I'm undecided. About 3 weeks ago, I was like, oh, damn, I got to go back up again. But then I've had a couple good weeks. So it's like, and like you said, gaslighting yourself is huge when it comes to mental illness because
absolutely.
I've said many times, I wish I was like, my mental illness was more like diabetes or something. I could just take a blood test and I know exactly what's wrong. And I have 100% proof. There it is. The paper says.
Recorded.
Yeah. Instead, it's, you're playing head games with yourself.
Oh, absolutely. And it's like, I take my kind of diabetes test as a mood app that I use, and I record my mood like once to a few times a day, and it creates a graph and I can see like if I've been going up or if I've been dipping down. And so it creates something for me to see, but it's still like, sometimes like there's so many feelings going on that I'm like, I honestly don't know how I'm feeling at all. I'm like, how are you feeling? I'm like, I have no freaking, I don't know. I don't know. Like, am I tired? Am I anxious? Am I fine? Am I depressed? Am I happy? Like, am I cool? Am I like, I don't even know. It feels like all of it at once. But like, but yeah, I mean, like, and all I will say is with your decision about your meds, don't make it like, I call it like an ego choice.
I know.
Like, like, oh, I don't want to be on these meds because then the idea, because of the idea of being on medication. I'm not trying to be all big pharma or anything like that. Also, the idea of being on medication, like, ooh, look at me, I'm on medication. Like, it should be strictly about how you're feeling and what you feel you can cope with. And that's it. And be as honest with yourself as possible. And I will tell you like the same thing, like I tell other people, like if you have, a physical illness and there is a pill that you take that can help the symptoms of it not be so bad, it's obvious you'd take that pill. No questions asked. People take, heart medication. People take, psoriasis medication. People take medication for diabetes, for all kinds of stuff. If this is something that is chronic, this is something that is likely not to go away, even if it's episodic. You know what I mean? There is no shame in taking something that might help you. Do you know what I mean? If it's available, then, and the only reason you're saying no is because you're like, I don't want to pay big pharma or something, like, then that's not a real reason. Because it's like, oh, I have a migraine. Well, here, have a Tylenol. No, like, why? Just take it,
I know.
But,
I
also don't want to medicate just because you're scared or whatever. But like, I don't think that's as common.
But it was like 3 years ago, I actually went off my meds altogether with the work of my doctor. And it was a fucking nightmare. Like the withdrawal from my meds was insane. I incrementally, slowly went off, and it was still a nightmare. But so anyway, it was like I finally was done all my withdrawal, and so it was like that monkey was off my back. But about 3 months later, I was like, oh shit, I have to go back on. It was almost like I was digging my heels in because I had fought through so much withdrawal. It just seemed like a waste to go back on. And I ran into a friend of mine, and actually her and her husband have been so amazing, so supportive of me over the years. But anyway, I ran into her at the gas station here in town, and she asked me how I was doing because clearly I wasn't doing well. And she said, Todd, I have high blood pressure, and every time my blood pressure gets normalized, it's like, oh, I can go off my meds now. And every time my blood pressure drops, and sometimes I may even end up in the hospital. And she said, everybody's got something, and there's no shame in taking it. And I gave her a big hug, and I started crying. It was like the next day I started going back on my meds. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people don't realize it's like, I'm feeling great. Yeah, because your meds are working.
Yeah, I know. And it's such a vicious cycle, because I'm even like that with work. It's like, I'm getting overwhelmed, so then I don't work for a while, or I have a part-time job, and then I start feeling good. It's like, hey, I'm better, I'm good now, and then I start working full-time again, and then I get overwhelmed again, and then it's like, well, shit, like, when am I going to just accept that maybe I can't have a high-paying full-time job because
you know what, I'm right there. Yeah, I'm right there as well. It's like I lost when I was in my last depressive episode, which was, like I said, it lasted about 1.5 to 2 years. Like 19, 20 months, whatever. And for a good probably 12 of those months, at least, every day, I was crying and panicking. Some days it would be a long cry. Some days it would be just like, catching myself for about 10 minutes or whatever. And I would have like a panic attack, like multiple times a day or like once a day. And, it's like I was just mentally, I was not well. We'll just say that. Spiritually, also, no, I'm sorry. It was a joke. Anyway, but the meds that I was taking, weren't even working. And I got fired from 3 jobs in a row over like, I don't know, 5-month period, 6-month period. I mean, it was quick. And they all decided to say that they laid me off because they felt bad for me, because they had to let me go because I kept having to leave and go cry in the bathroom. Right. You know what I mean? So like they were trying so that like the next guy didn't see I got fired, right. Like they were like trying to be nice about it, but like the truth was I got fired, yeah. But, and so I realized, there are some things that you are going to be able to handle and some things that you are not. And, But the thing also too about you were saying about going off meds because it feels like I'm sorry, saying like go off your meds because it feels like, oh great, they're working now,
Yeah.
And it's like when you have bipolar disorder, it's even worse because one, you're thinking, oh, I feel very stable, I'm going to go off my meds, and it's like, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
And then they always regret it. Ask any bipolar person what happened when they said, oh, I think I can go off my meds, and it doesn't end well ever. And but a lot of us, like, we say we understand how dangerous mania is, but we don't really take it. A lot of us don't really. I try to, but like a lot of us don't really take it that seriously, even though we should, because we're only human. And mania is hands down, especially in the beginning of it, the best feeling that any human being will ever feel in terms of euphoria at all. It is incredible. Your reality, your entire reality is incredible. You are on every single street drug that makes you feel good and empowered and awake and motivated and everything like that. And like, you think to yourself, oh, it would, like, you have these fantasies. Oh yeah, it'd be cool if like I had superpowers, or like if I could do no wrong, or like if I could, make $1 million next week and blah, blah. Like, yeah, that'd be fun. When you are manic, that is real. You do have magic powers. You are amazing. You are going to rule everything. You have all the best ideas. You are the sexiest thing to ever walk the planet. You are amazing. You are the smartest. You are all these kinds of things. Everything good that could possibly happen and impossibly happen is real for you. You know what I mean? And like, it's this wonderful, incredible feeling. And also this very blissful feeling. Like, nothing is going to go wrong for me, nothing ever again. And it's amazing. And like, and so a lot of people know, and so when you have that, it's kind of cruel really, because you have that and it usually shows up after or in between periods of severe depression. And I think, you have depression and you've dealt with depression and stuff, obviously. When you feel that bad and then you match it with feeling that good, you can imagine why somebody who has felt that bad now wants to feel that good. And all you have to do is not take your meds, and it can happen. And so to ask people to take their meds when they have bipolar depression, we're like, why do bipolar people go off their meds? That's why. That's why they do it, because they want to feel like that. And what they forget every single time, it's like every mom who has multiple children is all like, you forget about, how all the bad parts of when you were pregnant and giving birth last time, because you want to do it this time. It's the same thing when you're manic. You forget how horribly it ended last time. You forget, how actually bad it started feeling after a while, because just like getting way too high is not a good feeling either. That's kind of what happens. It's a lot like being on every single street drug, because you're first on it and you're like, this is incredible. And then you're on it too much and you get too high and it's really upsetting and you feel like you're going to explode and you don't know what's going on and you get psychotic and all this other stuff. And then it starts coming down and you're just grasping onto the last little fumes of it that you can. And freaking out, and then you crash down from it. And when you crash down from it, you wake up and you're not psychotic anymore. You're very much stable and sober to a point, and you look around and you realize what you've done, whatever that is, whether that be that you went bankrupt, whether that be that you crashed your car, you went to jail, your family fell apart because you did something that you can't undo. All kinds of things, or just you've got all of this stuff in your house that's like halfway done that you're never going to finish. Whatever, you look around and you're like, oh my God, what? And you crash down into a depression usually.
It sounds a lot like addiction in a way.
Yes. It behaves that way, and you crash down and you've crashed, and that's all your feel good that mania was using, and it's gone. And now you're down. And the thing is, the higher you go, the harder you fall. Right. And so I've learned that now, and I've tried to catch myself, because even though the last thing I wanted to do was take my medicine and make it go away, I knew that I had to, because the last big depressive episode I had was the most horrifying thing that's ever happened to me. It was absolute horror, and I don't ever want to feel that way again. And I probably will at some point, but I don't right now. And I don't want it to happen. And I've been feeling it kind of knock at the door, and I've been trying to just kind of keep the door closed, like, no. Like, but that's why it's really hard. And that's why a lot of people are like, and that's why I have a catchphrase basically on my page for my fellow people who are bipolar. Remember, mania hates you. Remember, mania is not your friend. Mania hates you. It wants you to do badly. And because everyone's like, oh, I love it. It's like, no, you don't. Get rid of it, because it's not a good thing,
Right. Sounds like a heroin high. Not that I've done heroin.
It's close. And it's like, and it's really unsettling for people around you as well. It's like the best way I could describe. And people are like, oh, why, what's wrong with being manic? You get all this stuff done. You do this, and it's like, okay, imagine you tell a joke and I don't know, it's a dad joke, right? So there's a little like, ha ha, someone kind of laughs at it. But then that one guy in the room laughs, and then he laughs a little too long. And then his laugh gets a little more like, ha, 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 ha. And the laughter just gets bigger until he's finally like, ah, 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 like, and his eyes are just huge. And he's like crying, and it's like Joker laughing now. And like, it's really scary. And like, everyone's like, that's mania. That's how it progresses. And so you don't want it to get to that point, where you sound like you should be in Arkham Asylum. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I've definitely had mania, but it's not. Like, I'm not saying I'm bipolar, but I've definitely, because even with depression, I mean, there's swings of weird shit like that. And even my mom, if I'm like having a really good time, she'll like pull me aside and be like, I'm worried about you. You're having a good time.
Too happy.
She's worried because I'm going to crash, right? She's worried about I'm being manic or something. That's like,
right.
Which is fair enough, but
yeah, and the thing with real mania, like this can go on for weeks. In fact, a real diagnostic tool is it's 2 weeks or longer. So you don't sleep more than an hour to like 3 hours a night, if that. Maybe not at all, for weeks or months.
Your libido, because I noticed you posted something about sexual.
Yes,
something.
that's. So so it's like, so obviously you get the crazy that people get when they're not sleeping. But then like on top of that, there's hypersexuality. Hypersexuality is just awful. It's awful. And I'll tell you why. When you're manic, it's like you're shoving the gas down on a car that's in park. And like you're like it's revving really, really high, and you're restless and you can't take off. You know what I mean? And like and it comes out in all kinds of ways, but including with hypersexuality. And what happens is it's imagine if you were really, really thirsty, or it's like a mosquito bite, right? I do it like this because this is something that people. No, because the first one's an impossible scenario, but this one happens. So. Okay. Like if you have a mosquito bite or a bunch of mosquito bites, right? And you can't scratch them. And finally, you kind of have to give in and scratch them. And it feels really good to scratch them. But in the minute that you stop, you're itchy again. In fact, you're even more itchy now. So now you got to scratch it more and more and more. And it gets more and more irritated and inflamed and itchy. That's your libido. It's not fun. Because nothing helps, and you get into this point where you're this single-minded, like you're just a libido at some points. And that's why a lot of people get in trouble, like if, they're in a relationship or if, they're a parent or whatever, and stuff hits the fan and everything. And it's like, and it's hard, or like people miss work so that they can stay home with like, X-tube, just all kinds of silly stuff,
We don't have X-tube in Canada.
Come on.
I'm kidding. We probably do.
We probably do.
We don't have the internet in Canada.
We don't have. Yes, we send messenger pigeons to get each other porn messages and porn. Send nudes.
Oh, it's all stuck together.
It's all like ripped in his little like toe ring thing he wears.
He can hardly fly.
but that's the thing. And that's how it is with almost everything. And it's like, you have these flight of ideas and these words that are coming out fast. It's like my husband recognizes when I'm manic now because I have what he calls mania face. right? Like even when it's resting, like this is just normal resting, but like manic, it's just a little bit more like, you know what I mean? Just like the eyes are just a little bit wider. You know, you can see the whites around the pupils.
For those of you listening, she looks a little more manic.
But it's like, you know, the eyes open just wider so you can see the whites around the pupils a little. The grin is a little wider, you know.
It's like
and the speech is faster.
Your character on Instagram.
Exactly. But like and you know, this and so, you know, you can just tell. And you look at someone who's manic and you're like, oh, this person has either just fucked up, is fucking up, or is about to fuck up. Oh God, you know. And by the way, I also wanted to say how cool it is. I think that you wrote the children's book that you wrote, totally different subject, but I'm very close to someone who was a little boy and lost his father to depression. And he said, he's like, oh, I wish I'd had that book when I was a kid. And yes, and I know that there's going to be a lot of kids because, you know, depression looks as scary as it feels a lot of the time, you know, and you know that, and I know that. And so it's like for a kid, it must be so confusing.
Absolutely.
Either their parent, especially, I would even go so far as to say, especially a father, when most men, you know, don't usually, there it is. I love it. No, and it's like, you know, especially when men are usually so stoic, much more stoic than women will say, you know, to see that it's scary. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think it's really cool that you've got that going.
Well, thank you. I was going to say I'm not proud of a lot of things, but maybe I am. I don't know. But it doesn't matter. I am proud of this book, though. I think you should be proud because it's. I mean, it took me. Well, actually, the very first draft of this was 5 years ago today, the day I quit drinking.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. So it took me about 4 years to actually finish it because, you know, I might be ADHD and I had hyperfocus and then not care about
have periods of hyperfocus. Yes, yeah. That's exactly what happens. It's like you hyperfocus for like a few weeks to a month and you're like, okay, anyway.
Yeah. Well,
new fixation for a bit and then you go back to it.
Well,
if it's a real passion.
I'm not sure if I'm ADHD, but I relate to all ADHD memes. So maybe that right there is
that's a clue right there. Yeah, I've known. You know what? It's so funny because it's like I've known that I had ADHD since I was about 5. It was you know my school counselor told my mother basically. Nobody knew what to do with it though. And so it's like, I see all these other adults who are like, oh, you got diagnosed so early. I wish that I'd known. If I had known, my life would have been so different. I'm all like, no, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't. You'd still feel like a loner. You'd still feel like a loser, like you were crazy, you're stupid, or you'd be down on yourself. It's just that now you'd know why. Right. You'd have a name for it, but you'd still feel exactly the same way. And nobody knew what to do to help you anyway, because there was nothing, you know? So it's like,
I like how you got closer to the camera when you did that.
Yeah.
No one will help you anyway.
No one would help you. It's true. It's true. No one would help them. And hardly anybody helps them today. It's like, it's really unfortunate, but you know.
Yeah. It's funny how that ADHD is like, I don't know, when I was a kid, well, that was never really taboo. Yeah, I mean, there's a stigma around it, but it was never taboo stigma. Talking about your kid having ADHD was more like the stereotype I have of ADHD is like the hyperactive kid that wouldn't shut up and wouldn't stop walking around the room and, you know.
Kind of a Bart Simpson kind of character.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, whereas like, so that's where some of the doubts I had about if I had ADHD, because I'm like, well, I was never like that.
Yeah. But I had a friend who was like that. Yeah.
So maybe I don't have the H. Maybe I'm just ADD.
Well, that's ADD, yes. And even the H, it's like that's some kids, but they are the ones that get diagnosed. See, and the other ones aren't quite like them, so they go amiss, especially little girls. And you know, like the H might be in there, maybe like, because I've been like kind of squirming and fidgeting and kind of moving and stuff around, like that's the H. And that's all the H has ever been for me. It's just kind of like I have to like squiggle, or sometimes I just really got to move my leg. My husband's like, will you stop? I'm like, no.
Oh man, I'm a leg bouncer. Yeah. It's like my leg is constantly
Yes. Yeah. Or like I have to touch stuff, you know, like all the time. Like, you know, like I just love like touching interesting textures and everything.
Man. I'm totally ADHD.
Probably, yes.
Like,
I feel
there's
that
been times where
familiarity talking with you.
I'm like suicidal in the ER, and I'm still like touching the gadgets on the wall. What's this do? What's this? Oh, that
Yeah.
feels beep beep. Oh, oops. Okay, you gotta put that.
Exactly. You got to touch things. You got to see stuff. It's like that was the problem. I loved antique shops, but my mom was always so nervous taking me in because I got to pick everything up. She's like, "Stop picking things up.
Do you
You'll
smell
break
things?
it.
You ever,
It's
like-
old." Yes, especially like old books and stuff like that. Yes. Yeah, especially if it's like in an antique shop or something, like I want to smell the old on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing. So
Yeah, I'm very sensory. Like, it drives my wife nuts because it's like she'll do our laundry, like our bedding, and then I'll go to bed. She goes to bed a couple hours before I do. So then, but then I'm tossing and turning, and like, you put the wrong pillow in the wrong order and the wrong, pillow cover on the wrong pillow, and it's like it has to be just so because of the texture on my ear or whatever, I mean. But it's like my whole day
I
is
have
like
I have a very specific way I need to sleep. My husband calls it hamstering, because you know how they just kind of keep digging and kind of like burrowing and like every little twitch until they get just so, and then like just like burrowing into the chips.
Yeah.
Like that's me. I'm just sitting there like every little thing, like, oh, it's not quite the right way.
My oldest son, he'll be 17 in a couple weeks. There's times where he like has to leave the room because I'm driving him nuts because I have a nose thing. It's like I can't get my nose comfortable. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
inside
For me,
and,
it's my cheeks.
Yes, I do a lot of jaw stuff, but yeah, he'll be like, "Will you fuck?" Like, there's times he'll swear at me, "Will you fucking stop doing that with your nose?" Then it's like, I'm sorry. I was doing it again, wasn't I?
I've got little things like that too. Something that's reminded me of that actually. It's gone past just kind of the like, fidgeting or whatever, things like that. Like since the psychosis has started blooming and the kind of like a little bit of the schizophrenia sprinkle has happened, like
you make it sound beautiful. It's blooming and sprinkling.
It's nice. It's better than saying, since I've been getting a little more schizophrenic, trying to put it as though it's a new evolution in who I am, It has blossomed into this new evolution of myself. But like, no, like I've developed these like motor tics a little bit. So it's like all of a sudden I'll be talking and then I'll just be like, meh, like my shoulder will kind of like meet my chin or something. Or like, like I'll kind of like my knee will kind of jerk up like somebody touched me or something. And I was just like, it's not a cute look. And then I get stressed out or embarrassed. So it gets worse. And, it just keeps like, oh my God, like I hate when and it always happens at the grocery store. And it's like the last place like is a super public place that you want it to happen, because you can't, it's like I have to wear like a little like sign like on my back, like, please do not laugh at me, I am disabled, like what do I do? Like I'm like, I don't.
So it's Tourette's-ish in a way.
It is. It's not quite Tourette's. It's not Tourette's. And it's something I've only had as an adult as well. But it's super fun. And I know that I annoy my husband because anything that we're sitting on where you can move it and the other person feels it, like all of a sudden,
right.
He'll be like relaxing and then just like, like all of a sudden, like mini earthquake.
I've been that way, but it was always when I first quit drinking, or I was like in real depressive spots, or I dare to say I've had some PTSD-ish moments too, and when I'm like right in those lulls, that's when I'll be like, yeah, can I do that weird kind of thing? I'll just like, boom, I'm twitching, especially when I'm like just falling asleep, and I'll just like suddenly my entire body just goes. Brr!
Yeah, that's actually the thing. That's called a hypnagogic jerk.
Oh.
A hypnagogic jerk. And that is something that can happen to people. But it's kind of that sensation where all of a sudden you feel like you missed a step going downstairs, even if you weren't necessarily thinking of it. And then you just wake up like you're falling or something.
Right.
That's.
Well, it's not that falling feeling. It's not the falling feeling. It's just does that. Yeah.
It's the jolting feeling, that shocking jolt that you feel when you're tripping, like that kind of same idea. But I think that's your body trying to test and see if you're actually asleep or not. And usually it works, but every now and then it doesn't.
Huh. But what'd you
Like
call
your
it
body
again?
will test. It's a hypnagogic jerk, I believe that's how you say it. But basically, it's when you're almost asleep and your body's like, oh, not yet. Sorry. Like,
Ah.
sorry about that.
Or around those same times too. I do like as I'm falling asleep, or even as I'm just watching TV, like as my body's starting to relax, I'll actually make noises with my mouth, just go,
Yeah, that might be another
I'm like, what
version
the
of
hell did
it.
that come from? Like, Like, what the hell am I making noise? What? It's been a long time, but
Honey,
yeah,
your wife's like, what? But and that is better though than the other way around, where your mind wakes up but your body doesn't, because that's kind of your body waking up when your mind's already kind of drifting. But like when your mind wakes up and your body doesn't, that happens to me. It's sleep paralysis.
paralysis. Yeah, there
Yes,
you go.
sleep paralysis. And that is like the most terrifying single experience that I've ever had in my life, because that, like, you literally do see like demons and you can't move and you're trapped and like they're gonna get you, you know? Like, and it's hard. Like I'm smiling and giggling, but that shit's terrifying. Like there's not a
Whee!
lot. There's not a lot of other things that I would put that before.
Yeah. Well, actually, when I quit drinking, I think it was about I was home from the hospital maybe a couple nights, and I was sleeping on the couch because I couldn't sleep in bed, and a similar thing happened. Like I would not wake up. It wasn't sleep paralysis. It was like I was having a nightmare and I just could not wake up, and I was yelling no so loud that I woke up my son, and he had to come out of his room into the living room and wake me up.
It's like a night terror.
I guess. I don't know. And then once he
Yeah,
woke
when
me
you wake
up,
up screaming or yelling or whatever, that's
but I
usually a
wasn't
night.
waking up. I was just like, no, like I was having this horrible nightmare. Um, and I just could not wake up. And then once I did wake up and I knew I was awake, it didn't matter. Like I like freaked out. I had the biggest panic attack. Like I could not stop crying. I was uncontrollable to the point that my wife was like, "What do I do? What do I do? What do you want me to do? Like how can I help?" And she
Yeah.
was freaking out because I'm freaking out. It was just,
That is kind of like what a night terror is, because you're screaming or whatever and you're asleep and somebody may have to wake you up, but when you wake up, you're freaking out. Like,
yeah,
and you need to like calm down. But like that's a big one. Like those are big ones.
yeah.
Like what you're describing, like because like my husband will have that sometimes, and all of a sudden like this escalating, just kind of like wailing will come from him, and I have to kind of wake him up a little bit. And he's like, ah, okay, and then he goes back to sleep. But sometimes for other people, like you said, like you can wake up and have this full panic, kind of thing going on or whatever.
Yeah. We're covering a lot of craziness.
Yeah. Pick a topic. I'm on it.
Hey, let's talk about your body dysphoria or whatever. What's it called again?
Body dysmorphia.
Dysmorphia.
So body dysmorphia is it's basically, well, the thing that kind of it should be immediately equated to, it is in the family of OCD disorders, obsessive compulsive disorders. It's in the same kind of wing of that family as, say, like eating disorders, which I've also dealt with. But for me, I'm already dealing with so many things that talking about that as well just seems like it's too many things to throw in the mix. And it's not, you know what I mean? Like everyone's going to get confused. But I have dealt with them on. Seriously, it's going to start being like, oh, you're faking. You can't. It's like, no, it's what happens when you're fucked up. But like, I've been on both spectrums of that, like where it's restrictive and binging. I binged really bad for several years whenever I would get depressed, and I would be literally like sick to my stomach, feeling like I'm going to throw up. I would pause eating until I didn't feel like I was going to throw up, and then I'd eat some more. Like it wouldn't stop. Like I couldn't stop. It was the only thing that made me feel like I was going to be happy. And then I was all the way on the other end of the spectrum as well, where I would freak out at the idea of having half of a candy bar. And some girl told me that 10 steps on stairs burned one French fry. So I would literally sit there and count out my French fries. And then I would walk the appropriate amount of stairs up and down to get rid of them. Like, I mean, I've been on both ends of these things where it's like I wouldn't eat at all. And we'd have like the pine float that me and other girls who were like me would kind of joke about, which is water with a toothpick in it, Like, but like, you know what I mean? And it's so, but it's in that family, but you know, you've got, you think of like an anorexic girl or boy or a bulimic person, and they will always see themselves as fat or not thin enough, even though they may actually be quite thin, or they may just not be fat or whatever. They may still see, oh, it's still not enough. It's still not good enough. It's still this, it's still that. And they'll fixate on it, and they'll sit there and be like, oh my God, or they'll pinch and pull at their bodies for like ages on, you know, or they won't look at themselves, or they wear baggy clothes so they don't have to look at their bodies and stuff. And that's most people with eating disorders on that end have some kind of body dysmorphia, because that's what body dysmorphia is. You can have it without having an eating disorder, but most people with eating disorders, if it's for the traditional reasons, have that. And it's also about needing to have control and all that other noise, but that's a whole different thing. But basically, it's this thing where I will literally see a different face depending on what state I'm in when I look in the mirror. And sometimes it's okay. And a lot of times it's really, really not okay, like what I see. And I don't want to be anywhere near it. And I don't want to show it to anyone. I've gotten better than I was when I started my page. When I started my page, somebody who was paranoid demanded that I send them an actual photo of my face without any filter. Was like, oh, you know, I just don't believe you're all filters. You're all filters. And they were my friends. So I'm like, okay. So I took a photo of myself and I sent it. And I literally had a panic attack for the next 20 minutes. Like I couldn't handle it. And so I've gotten better now. I still kind of use things to help me feel more comfortable making content, because I'm like, I can either be in therapy for 2 years or 3 years until I get over this and then make content, or I can just make it now and accept that this is something I'm dealing with. And I've been trying to kind of gradually step it down, but it's really hard. And it's gotten to a point where it's like, it's affected the way the lighting is in my house. I don't do overhead lighting. I don't do under lighting, because then it highlights the things that freak me out. The mirrors and reflective surfaces are very strategically placed. I couldn't look. My old house had one of the, like a glassy kind of finish on the microwave, so it reflected, you know. I couldn't look at myself in the microwave. Like it freaked me out in the kitchen. I didn't want to do it. Like I had to put sticky notes over my camera, like my preview, like on like meetings and stuff. I couldn't do it. I would spend hours trying to arrange stuff so that it was like perfect. Like I didn't go out places. I couldn't. I set up a thing on my phone for a voice command that did just like a little like ticker count like thing, you know, like when you just wanted to keep tally of something, like, and it was a phrase. And I said it one day, every time one of these thoughts about, you know, my appearance just being horrendous, or like, oh my God, I look old, or oh my God, I look this, or oh my God, I look that. And I just did a tally of it every single time. And I did it actually for several days, and I worked it out. I was having a mini panic attack over this once every 15 minutes on average, every day. And when I say every day, I mean every day. Every single day, it's on my mind at one point or another. It's there in the background. It's in the foreground. It's somewhere. And like I said, I've been trying to kind of redirect it lately a little bit, so that it's not because it's exhausting, but like it's something that literally, and it used to, especially when I'm depressed, it will eat at me all day long. And people are like, oh, well, you know, you do have some days where you don't think, no, I do not. No, sir. I could be having the best day ever. And
even when you're manic?
No. Well, yes. Even when I was manic, because I was still using those filters when I was manic, because I couldn't handle it. It was making me more angry than sad or upset. But, you know, it was still there. I didn't feel it as much, but it was still there. And it's just like, it was this really exhausting thing, you know, and I didn't want to be around people for a long time because of it. And it gives you this many like, you're like kind of like panic, just all of a sudden like, you know, like you can't take it, you know, and that's why it's obsessive compulsive, because it's on your mind. And then you either avoid all the reflections that you can, or when you do catch a reflection, you got to fix it. You got to pull at your skin, or you got to like wear something or spend forever doing your makeup a certain way or covering this, or like I don't like my arms, so I'll sit there when I'm feeling bad and just like pull at my arms and stuff. And it's just like, and it's not fun because I want to be able to just enjoy my life. I get panicky when I'm out and I forgot sunscreen. You know what I mean? Like it's just this exhausting thing. You know, I keep it in my car, like all this other noise, you know.
So between that, psychosis, manic,
mood disorder, and neurodivergency of ADHD.
You're a
and,
busy lady.
Yeah, I try to keep on top of my mind.
Well, I'm glad you can. And then you have this amazing page where you make light of it all.
I try. And I hope that other people can make light of it too with me.
So when you see people that have like intense plastic surgery to the point that they don't even look human anymore, is that kind of the same thing?
The likelihood that someone who has gotten immense amounts of plastic surgery that are noticeable doesn't have some kind of body dysmorphia is very, very slim, because that's a symptom. If you have money and you have this disorder, you spend it and you spend it trying to fix it. And the problem is, as you can see, a lot of the time it doesn't fix it. It makes it worse.
Yeah.
And you keep spending more and more money trying to fix it until you just make it look worse than it ever could have been, you know? And it's like, that's why I'm kind of glad, because I can tell you, if it was just me, I probably, like, there are times where I'm like, Jesus, I would rather have this than pay rent. I would rather have this than buy myself food. Yeah. And it's pathetic. Like, why would you like that's so wrong. It's so messed up, you know, but it's like, it's true, you know, and it's like, and I don't like thinking that way. And there are a lot of things I like about how I look, you know, and it's just this extra bit that's kind of, again, like a ribbon in the ice cream, you know what I mean? It just kind of seeps its way in there, you know.
Well, at the risk of sounding like a creep, you look lovely.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And you don't sound like a creep. That's very kind.
Oh, good, because I am. So thank God I didn't sound like
Well, you've been hiding it well.
Well, I'm not wearing pants.
Oh, okay. I don't think anybody. I think there's a surprisingly large percentage of people who go to Zoom meetings and stuff who don't bother wearing pants. I feel like
just for a thrill.
Maybe, I don't know. Like if you're at like a work Zoom meeting and you're just like, yep. Continue.
I'm pooping.
Exactly. Why do you have it on mute? No reason.
Why is your face turning red? No reason. Anyway, sorry, that was dumb.
Just feeling a little embarrassed.
Thank God we don't have smell-o-vision yet. Anyway.
It just seems like a bad idea. Right out the gate. There's some people who I look at them and I'm like, I'm so glad I can't smell your breath right now.
Just from looking at them, you know they have bad breath?
You just look at some people, and I hate to be rude, but some people just look like they smell like hot dog water. You know what I mean? Like,
you don't like that smell?
It's not my fave. Like, you just like, I don't think I want to smell you, but thank you. Like, I'll bet you that like mint and gum sales went through the roof because for the first time in 2020, everyone was forced to smell their own breath. Because I've put the mask on sometimes and I've been like, oh no. Somebody pass some extra. Like.
Thank you so much, Haley. I had so much fun talking with you, and the other day we did an Instagram live event thing, her and I had a blast talking to her then too. So yeah, she's just a fun lady to talk to. So thank you for that. And you can follow her on Mind Over Mood on Instagram. That's mind.over.mood. And you can follow her account. Since her and I have talked and recorded this interview, she's actually got thousands more people following her. So she keeps growing by hundreds a day. So yeah, get on that bandwagon and follow her. Next episode, I am talking to a really, really nice guy named David Pope. He's from the UK and he's a grief counselor. And next week's episode is all about grief and how to deal with grief. And and how to process it and all types of great things like that. So he's such an incredibly nice man. I'm really looking forward to releasing that episode. And that will be in 2 weeks' time. So look forward to that.
Thank you for listening, and please subscribe, rate, and review however you are listening to this podcast. It only takes a moment, and it really helps the show out with getting noticed. This episode has been sponsored by Penny University Bookstore, 3104 13th Avenue. Call 639-571-2186 and check out their online bookstore at pennyu.ca. The Saskatchewan Podcast Network is supported by Connexus. Wellness, however you define it, is achievable. You don't even need to figure it all out by yourself. Talk to Connexus. They'll give you guidance, motivation, and the push you need to reach your goals. They've got you. They're your financial partner, and they know you can achieve your very best, your financial best. Prove them right. Start right at Connexus Credit Union. The Saskatchewan Podcast Network is also sponsored by Direct West. Are you a business owner looking for new avenues to promote your business? Direct West digital billboards are a great opportunity to highlight a new product, new promotion, or anything else you'd like your customers to know about. You can get local, expert marketing help for your business at directwest.com. If you are having a mental health crisis, please call the Canadian Crisis number at 1-833-456-4566. In Saskatchewan, the mobile crisis team in Prince Albert is 306-764-1011. In Regina, it's 306-525-5333. And in Saskatoon, it's 306-933-6200. Don't forget to check out my children's book, Sometimes Daddy Cries. Sometimes Daddy Cries is told through the eyes of a boy whose father suffers from depression. He sees his dad get sad, rest, and even go to the hospital, all while comparing his father's depression to a physical ailment. Available on Amazon.ca. I'll see you next time. This is Todd Redebaum saying, make your beds and take your meds. Bye.